desire was to please his Father. He wanted to and also he loves us, he
Right.
wanted to save us. But at the same time, he begged God, if there's any other way, take this cup from me. And he was crying out with
Yeah.
all of his might, so much so that he sweat great drops of blood.
Mm-hmm.
And he did not and he did not want to go to the cross.
No.
He did not want to give his life.
He knew it was coming,
and he did it of his free will. So he
Right.
wasn't forced to do it. He did it of his free will, but it wasn't something that he wanted to do.
Right.
So today we're going to be talking about, so I kind of wanted to do this podcast episode on the love of God, and Clarissa thought that was a great idea too, right, Clarissa? Yeah, great idea. How can you ever say that's a bad idea? Oh,
you can't ever
let's
say.
not do that. But I wanted to do it in like a different light.
Yeah.
Like, when Jesus was dying on the cross, there were some things that he did that were very specific. And I thought it would be worthwhile to study what those things are. I'm sure it's been done before, but
Mm-hmm.
the reason why, we've talked about it, and I know you can relate, is sometimes things in life, they seem bleak, they seem dark,
Yeah.
you feel alone. And sometimes you think you're not the only one that's ever felt that. You're not the only one that's ever felt that. But sometimes you wonder, like, Jesus is supposed to be able to relate to us, right? He's been tempted in every area. He's supposed to relate
felt
to
loss.
us.
He's felt grief.
Right.
He's trauma, like
temptation.
all of it.
Yeah, all of it. But I think that when it comes to fear and the unknown and confusion, we kind of feel alone in our humanity in that respect. Like,
Right.
God doesn't know what that feels like. I wrote this spoken word a few years ago, and it was really, I was going through a deep, dark depression, and it was talking about how sometimes I think that we as humans feel like we are little kids abandoned on this island called Earth. And just left to fend for ourselves. Like, I'm on all kinds of different conspiracy theory sites and stuff. And there's a lot of people who do, like, they believe in God, but they feel like he abandoned us.
Right.
And
or people use the analogy, he's just a kid with a magnifying glass
I've heard that,
in the sun, and we're ants on this ant hill.
Right.
And then it makes me think of the movie Ants or Bug's Life. Bug's Life.
Ants is way better.
Ants is way better.
I'm just kidding. I really like both of them, but
You said you don't like both of them?
I do like both of them.
Yeah, same. No, it's well, both, I guess. But the grasshoppers are always messing with the ants.
We are derailing. That's okay. But yeah, they feel like maybe, like, the grasshoppers, that's God.
Well, he's just watching. Magnifying glass, and then sometimes they'll fry you with the sunbeam.
Yeah, so
but it's not true. Obviously.
I know, but we have felt that way before, because sometimes in our darkest moments, we're crying out, we're looking for a sign, we're straining to hear his voice, and coming up silent, coming up empty-handed, and so I know that a lot of times we do feel that way. Even the strongest of Christians have felt that way before.
Well, Jesus felt that way. He said, my God, why have you forsaken me?
Exactly, and I think people don't realize that. They think Jesus was never afraid. They think that, he always knew exactly what was going to happen, that he always wanted to do God's will. He looked forward to doing his Father's will.
Yeah.
And, his desire was to please his Father. He wanted to and also he loves us, he wanted to save us. But at the same time, he begged God, if there's any other way, take this cup from me. And he was crying out with all of his might, so much so that he sweat great drops of blood. And he did not want to go to the cross.
No.
He did not want to give his life.
He knew it was coming,
and he did it of his free will. So he wasn't forced to do it. He did it of his free will, but it wasn't something that he wanted to do.
Right.
And
how many times? Go ahead. Sorry.
No, it's okay. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, how many times in life are we at a crossroad, right? Of making that choice of, like, something that you're called to do, whether that be obviously not as extreme as being crucified and dying for the sins of humanity, but okay, crucifying your flesh and being kind to someone who you don't want to be kind to, right? Like making that choice of being like, I do not want to do this, you know, and
Right.
it may seem small on the scale, but it's kind of wages the same, I think is how I want to phrase that, of like making that conscious choice
Yeah.
to move in love, whatever that looks like.
Yeah, and sometimes it's dying to yourself to do something for your family that you know will, I mean, it's basically putting them higher than yourself, you know. Um and but you know, there's different levels of that we face in our life, of being in that moment where we are, you know, crying out like Jesus cried out, my God, why have you forsaken me?"
Right.
And we forget that he said that.
Yeah.
You know, we forget that he knows what that feels like, where
Right.
he was scared. And then they say, well, Jesus was perfect, so how could he have been scared? Well, it makes me think of that verse, my God, or the verse that says, perfect love cast out all fear.
Yeah.
And you know, Jesus's love is perfect.
Right.
He is love. He displayed God's perfect love on the earth by what
Yeah.
he did on the cross. And but I think that's what that verse means. Perfect love casts out all fear. And I think that while Jesus was in this process of being tortured and dying and giving his life for us, he did specific things that just screamed God's love to us.
Yeah.
And that casts out all the fear that he faced,
Right.
when he felt alone on that cross.
Yeah.
And when he didn't have any hope, he was giving hope.
Yeah.
He was giving hope to the thief on the cross, saying, today you're going to be with me in paradise.
Right.
When he felt utterly alone, he was making sure his mom and James had companionship in each other.
Yeah.
He said, hey, this is your mom now, James. Mom, this is your son now.
Right.
Making sure they had someone to take
As
care
he's
of
going
each
through
other.
the most brutal thing anyone could ever
Yeah.
go through in life.
Yeah. And then another thing was, he gave forgiveness while everyone poured out their wrath onto Jesus,
Right.
who was
He's
perfect.
like, forgive them. They don't know what they're doing.
Right.
They're making a bad choice, but I'm here to
I
save
think
the
in
day.
that moment, like, he understood the plight of humanity, how we don't know what's going on. We don't see the big picture. You know, we are trying to make the best of our lives and trying to figure it out. And we sometimes in the process make really glaring mistakes. Well, we're really selfish. Sometimes it's not even a mistake. It's just selfishness. Yeah. And just being a bad person, you know?
Right.
But I think that in that moment, Jesus understood, like, just what it is really like to be a human.
Yeah.
And begged God to forgive us, because he's like, they really don't see. They really don't understand.
Like, you can't in this, like, in the capacity that we're in and the limitations that we're in, just being, you know, three-dimensional beings versus being a transcendent, the right word?
Yeah, I think so.
You know, like a transcendent being, right?
Yeah.
Like in our heavenly bodies versus our earthly bodies, to bring that level of understanding and that level of compassion of, like, they don't know. Like, there is no way to know within this this box that they're in, right? Like, with this level of consciousness, with this level of understanding, like, they don't know. So, and that would actually make sense as to, you know, believing in Jesus, you get the gift of God's grace.
Right.
Because he now knows, hey, this grace needs to cover, because they're just not equipped.
Right.
Right. Like, well, to not be like that.
Yeah. And I think that within that grace too is the remedy, or the cure to the fear that we face as being human. He said, pick up your cross and follow me.
Yeah.
You know, you don't love your life. It's, what is it to gain the whole world if you lose your soul?
Right.
And I think when he was teaching those things, and then he showed us what it looks like while he was dying for us on the cross. In that moment when you are feeling hopeless, give hope to some people. You know,
that's
pick
good.
up your cross and follow me. In that moment when you feel shaky in your faith, you give faith to people. You build their faith up. You encourage them.
Right.
You know,
and in turn, that's going to build your faith.
Yeah, exactly.
Wow, that's
exactly.
good.
And as you're doing this, you're going to cast out the fear in your own life, and you're going to cast out the fear in other people's lives.
Well, because you think of it, right? And like they say, to be an expert in something means you can teach it to other people.
Right.
Right. Like at a certain level. And so if you're able to be faithful and share faith and share hope and hopefulness and trust in God when you're not feeling it per se, right? But you can teach that on to other people. It just instills in you, like builds that confidence.
Well, and it kind of reminds me, and this might be a terrible example, but this just keeps coming to my mind, so I'm going to say it. But it kind of reminds me of if there is something scary that's happening in the world, like maybe there's war and there's like bombs going off everywhere.
Yeah.
And the mother and the father, maybe, just one or the other, the kids are huddled around and they're scared. And the mom and the dad, they're saying, hey, it's going to be okay.
Right.
Everything's going to be okay.
The storm.
But their mind, like, they don't know if it's going to be okay.
They don't know. They have no idea.
They're scared.
Yeah.
But bringing that peace to their kids and that comfort to their kids, in a way, like, they have to keep it together.
Right.
They can't allow fear to take over their life because they have to keep it together to bring peace to the situation, to bring peace to their kids. And a lot of times that's a make or break in a situation.
Yeah,
that can be the saving grace. And even if it's not the saving grace and a bomb hits that house and they all die, they had peace when they died. You know what I mean?
That's good, yeah.
And I know that might sound really bleak and kind of dark, but we're all going to die. We're all of us, every single one of us are going to die someday. And when we are the ones that in that moment, just like Jesus on the cross, are bringing peace to the people around us, bringing companionship when we feel lonely, asking for forgiveness when we're feeling all of the wrath of the whole world that's undeserved, when we feel that injustice, but we're still bringing peace, forgiveness, and hope to the situation. That's what matters. And that's what Jesus says. That's what Jesus means when he says, pick up your cross and follow me.
Right.
Love in the face of fear causes fear to flee. And that's a lot of F's. So.
So give an F.
Give an F.
Give an F of others.
Wow, that was not planned at all.
It sure wasn't.
I think I blushed. I made myself blush a little bit on that one, weirdly.
With my analogies, oftentimes, like, it'll either be brides, it's something like so wild, or like give an F about people. Like, I feel like that's just the way God uses me at this point, because it's a common reoccurring thing. And like, I used to get so dumb, I'm like, why are you like this? And it's like, I just am. Right.
And he's not calling us to act like we like people or act like we love people. He's calling us to really like people and to genuinely love people. And that was the thing. Literally, it took me years and years and years. Like, I used to try really hard to show people that I like them and to act like I like them and love them, even though I really didn't.
Yeah.
And I was like, God, why don't I love people? Why don't I like people?
Because you're acting.
Well, there was a few things. First, he had to show me my disdain for myself and how that's not okay. And then he had to show me, hey, if you don't spend time with people, you're not going to like them.
That's fair.
And then he showed me, if your image of people is just what you see online, you're not going to like them. You're not going to love them.
Right.
Because that's fake. It's a facade. For better or worse, it's not real.
Right.
So, he also showed me, you have to pray for people. Like, when you pray for people, you're forcing yourself to meditate on people, to think about them. And when you think about people, you're going to love them.
Right.
And the Bible tells us whatever is good, whatever is lovely, whatever is of good report. If all you see is people fighting on the internet, if all you see is what is going on the news, you're not going to like people at all.
No, not at all. Because it's all negative.
Right. I was actually, I was on one of my, I think it was the world, or we live in a simulation. Somebody was like asking, like, why have I been so full of rage lately? Why have I, and everyone's like, yeah, I've been angry too for no reason. I'm not usually like this. And I was like, it's rage culture.
It is.
It is.
Everything is clickbait. It's rage. It's especially heading into election season. And
right.
It's like, pick a side. And if you do this side, then you're this or you're that. And it's just baiting you. And they use like taglines and headlines and keywords and catchphrases that are, I firmly believe, designed to trigger people.
Yeah.
To like bring out the worst in them instead of the best in them.
Right.
To be on opposing sides versus, okay, we have differences, but we can see eye to eye on certain things.
Well, you know what makes me mad is when I'm reading and they say, oh, people who are voting for this person are like this, and this, and they're stupid, and all these other things are racist, they're blah, blah, blah.
Mm-hmm.
And that makes me mad because I'm like, they're talking about me. So when I think they don't like me, that makes me not like them.
Right.
And it's just, you know, and it's like that thing I posted about, you know, in high school, there was this group of girls that I didn't like because I thought they didn't like me. They're the preppy girls. And those girls thought I was like the angry goth girl that didn't like them. So that's why they didn't like me. And so I recognize that now. And I'm like, their strategy is to make us assume that we don't like each other. Mm-hmm. What I'm going to do is I'm going to reverse engineer that. And I'm just going to assume everyone likes me, even if they act like they don't.
That's actually a good idea.
Shrek, Donkey and Shrek. Okay, Shrek's trying to get Donkey to go away, and Donkey is just way too friendly, lacks boundary skills. But you know what? They end up being best friends in the end. Yeah. And there's characters like that in a bunch of different movies where they just, they're really annoying and the other person doesn't like them, but they are completely oblivious and not self-aware. Yeah, I'm like, I don't want to be self-aware sometimes.
I'm making waffles.
Yeah.
Did I tell you this story of Shrek?
I don't think so.
Okay, segue just briefly. Okay. My youngest sister, Alicia. Okay, she's 24. Hands down, Tiff. I thought she was a Shrek fan. Die hard fan. And every time I see anything related to Shrek, I'll either tag her in it, I'll send her it via text message or instant message. Well, I sent her a video of this guy. They're like these little key things. It's like, I wonder if Fiona was home, and his was Shrek, and he like put it on, and the Fiona's key was in there, right in there, Shrek, and she thumbs downed it. And I said, oh, you don't like this one? She goes, I don't know why you always have sent me things of Shrek. I don't like Shrek. Bro, I have gone the last at least 10 years thinking she loved Shrek.
Oh my gosh.
She did not love Shrek at all. She's like, I've never liked Shrek. I'm like, but didn't you go by Shrek like in high school or something? She goes, my friend took a picture of my toe and drew Shrek's ears, and it was a funny thing for a month. She was like, they were just making fun of my toe. So like, I have been resurfacing.
Oh my gosh, all the trauma.
So, bro, so her and Christine thought she loved Shrek too. Oh, so Christine would always tag her in Shrek things. Well, I came home a couple weeks ago to a package, and I open it, a big stack of Shrek stickers, a Shrek hair clip, Shrek blanket, Dr. Now from my 600-pound life, because that's another thing we always send back and forth, magnets. They're like coated on the side of my fridge. Alicia and Christine sent them to me, and she was like, here you go, Shrek lover. And so now it's just funny. And so when you brought up Donkey and Shrek, I'm like, bro, I cannot escape Shrek. I can't escape Shrek.
Well, you know what? That's actually a really good example. Like, this is your sister. You know your sister really well, and you thought she loved Shrek,
thought she loved
and
Shrek.
She was like kind of insulted, like, okay, I'm annoyed by this. Imagine the miscommunication with strangers. Right. Or like a different people group or different culture or all these other things. There's so many things that can be misconstrued and made offensive that aren't offensive. Right. So you know what? I just decided that I am not going to be offended, and I'm not going to assume people don't like me.
That's why I still send her Shrek things.
You should.
Definitely.
I do. That's what good sisters do. In fact, I'm going to start sending my sister Shrek things.
You should. Christine said that if it was her, she would have held it until she was like on her bed, like deathbed. And then last words been like, I never liked Shrek.
That's so
and just.
Well, you know what's funny is my husband, he started getting me lilies from like the day we like got together. Yeah. And I not anymore, but I used to hate the smell of lilies, because when I was a kid, every time I went to a funeral, they had lilies everywhere. Yeah. And I didn't know the smell I was smelling were lilies. I thought it was the dead people. Oh. So my brain associated the smell of lilies with the smell of dead people. I thought it was like chemicals or something from embalming fluid or
I know exactly the smell you're talking about.
So anyways, I didn't have the heart to tell Jeremy that I did not like the smell of lilies. So every time he brought me flowers, he thought they were my favorite flowers. He would get me lilies. But you know what's crazy is he got me so many lilies that I started associating the smell of lilies with Jeremy's love for me. So now I really genuinely love lilies, and my brain just completely rewired itself to like the smell of lilies. I told him the story, and now every time he brings home flowers, he's like, "Do you want lilies?" Or I can't tell if you really do like lilies now or not. I'm like, I do. It's a cute story. He's like, okay.
Right. He doesn't quite believe you. So that's just what's going to happen with Shrek.
Yeah, I like it. Yeah, I cried in Shrek when I watched it. When I was pregnant, I cried because when they got married and they kissed, she turned into an ogre instead of a princess. And I was like, it's not fair. I was all big and pregnant.
Her Prince Charming.
I know. It's like
I think she likes being an ogre better anyway.
I know. I think it's important that we know that Jesus can relate to us in our dark moments, in our fear or our confusion, because not only is it awesome to not feel alone in those feelings and in those moments, but he also shows us a way out. He shows us what we are supposed to be doing. Maybe a way out is the wrong way to put it, but what we're supposed to be doing.
I think a way out, it would be fine. Like a way out of those feelings.
Well, yeah, I mean, it does say perfect love casts out all fears. So that does sound like a remedy to me.
Yeah.
But also I think
a way out of frustration, a way out of hurting, a way out of feeling down and out.
And alone. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I think too, sometimes just having something to do in those moments, like it says, when you've done all you can, just stand or be still and know that he is God. Sometimes we don't know what to do in those moments when we're walking through the valley of the shadow of death.
And sometimes we're not supposed to be doing nothing but just standing firm,
but also standing firm in the way that he showed us,
right?
The way that he displayed it on the cross. It's not doing nothing,
Oh yeah,
it's continuing to be selfless in those moments, making it a point to give someone hope when you feel hopeless, making it a point to give someone companionship when you feel alone, making it a point to forgive people who don't deserve to be forgiven, to empathize with those people even while you feel like they are persecuting you. And I think
seeing it from another perspective.
Yeah.
Taking you out of it.
To forgive them too. Like, when someone cuts me off in traffic, I'm like, maybe they really have to poop because sorry.
There's no other reason as to why they'd be acting how they're acting.
Well, and I've been there. Yeah. Like, I'm sorry I'm driving like a maniac. So just like,
I gotta find a bathroom.
Okay, maybe make it less gross. It's an emergency. Their mom's sick and what she called them, or
I'd like to go with the crap.
Or their kid has to poop. Like,
there you go.
I've been like my kids in the back seat.
Mom, I have to pee. Yes. Mom, I can't hold it.
I'm gonna pee my pants.
Like, find a cup.
Yeah, I've done that before. Yes, I have. But anyways, being able to, I think understanding their point of view, or maybe imagining what their point of view might be, trying to, that helps you to forgive them because you understand them a little bit more,
Right.
So I think that Jesus showed us what to do in those moments of darkness where we feel completely hopeless, or we feel completely lost, or we feel completely alone. And when we are able to give the thing that we need the most, that's when we are going to be set free. That's when, we're not going to be thinking about ourselves.
Right. What is it? Humility isn't to shrink yourself. It's to think of yourself less.
It's not
think of others more.
Yeah. Humility isn't
to think less of yourself,
but thinking
of yourself less.
There we go. Yeah.
Thinking of others more. And that's exactly what Jesus did.
Well, they say that people who are depressed, a lot of times the cure for them is to do charity. Go serve at a soup kitchen or
give back.
Right. And people who do things like that regularly are way less likely to suffer from depression than those who don't do things like that. So I think that there is not that we should serve others for selfless reasons,
right?
But there's definitely things that we gain
for sure
on a deep spiritual level when we give others.
Well, it's exactly what Jesus modeled.
Yeah,
because he came to serve.
Yeah, exactly. He washed the disciples' feet, including the disciple that would betray him.
Right.
And I think there was a really specific reason for that. He knew Judas was going to betray him, and yet he washed his feet. And that's what we're supposed to be doing in this season.
Yep.